Welcome back to the Back 40 Firewood channel. In my last video, I kind of opened up the debate about stacking wood versus just tossing it in a loose pile. And I did have the example of the loose pile that I tossed last summer. I put all that wood kind of in a big pile. And I didn't really explain that I didn't tarp the wood until late in the fall, right before the snow came. So I did let it sit all summer without a tarp on, and it still kind of got a little moldy down in the center and down towards the bottom. But after thinking it over, I think the problem wasn't necessarily the conditions with the tarp and where it was and any of that. I think it was actually the wood, because that type of wood I think was really, it holds a lot of moisture, and I think it was pretty wet when it went into that pile. Then I remembered that I had a few more big pieces of it right here. So what I want to do is I just want to split those open and see what they are like on the inside. If they are kind of damp still, I mean, these big chunks have been sitting now just in a round form for, well, all winter and since last fall. So I'm going to split those open. We're going to see, I'm going to show you something here on just the end, just to show you. But I want to split these open, see what they're like, and just kind of like follow up on the follow-up video that I did. And then I'm going to throw the 6-way wedge on. We're going to do some 6-way wedge splitting. And then I'm also going to give you a quick little update on the pond reconstruction project. So hold tight. I'm going to show you this wood right here, and then we're going to do some splitting and have a whole lot of fun. So get ready. All right, so this is some of that basswood that I had in that pile. And you can see, without even being split on the end here, it did get a little moldy, especially this piece right here. And this is just being bucked and exposed to the air. Like, this wood holds a lot of moisture. So I've got this piece, I've got these 3 pieces of that basswood. And I just want to take the single wedge and just crack these things open and see what they're like on the inside. If they're still damp or if they're still holding a lot of moisture on the inside. And that would probably explain why, even after split and being tossed in that pile, they were still prone to getting a little mold on them. So I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but the wedge is just wet. Just wet to the touch. And that's from going through that basswood. The inside of that wood is just still that wet. So along with the wedge being moist to the touch and kind of wet, I can just pick these pieces up and I can just feel the inside of them is just damp. It's just, they're not dry at all. It's like I said, this basswood holds a lot of moisture. It does dry out fairly quick once it is exposed, but I think what happened when I split that stuff last summer is I think I just split it, tossed it into that pile, being, you know, having a lot of moisture on the surface of the wood, and then that's what generated the mold and generated the discoloration. And here's another piece. It's just damp. And that wedge, and I don't know if you guys saw on some of the splits, but when the wedge hit the wood, there was actually water like being pushed out from the wood. So I think that's it. I think that's the reason why that wood got moldy. Same thing with the maple. That stuff is pretty wet on the inside as well, and if you don't give it a good chance to air out right away and kind of dry, get that initial moisture off the surface, I think that's why that stuff molded as well. All right, so I'm kind of stuck inside here because it's still kind of raining outside, but I do have this bucket now full of wood off of those pieces that went through the 6-way, and then the basswood that I slabbed off to see just how wet it was on the inside. So I'm gonna go stack this. All right, so quick little check-in on the pond project, or the stream project. So I got all the underlayment tore up, I got the liner out, I've redug and reshaped my pond over there. So everything is moving right along. This is yesterday, was raining all day, so I didn't get too much. Well, I got all that stuff dug out, but I haven't been able to work on it today yet. But you can see we got rocks there, we got rocks there, we got rocks back here. We got it all tore apart. So like I said, I'll be putting a whole video of this together, but just wanted to give you guys, for those of you that were wondering, a little status update. Like I said, we dug all this out now, reshaped it. So it's all ready for a new liner to go back in. That's the next step. So I'm back in the shelter now. I got another bucket full of wood. That's from a little shorts video that I just made, about 6 pieces going through the 6-way wedge. So check for that tomorrow. But I think that's gonna do it for this video. Just wanted to do a quick little follow-up on my follow-up video of that moldy wood. And I think the problem was the wood itself. What type of wood it was. I know stuff like basswood, cottonwood, aspen or poplar, that stuff will be pretty damp and pretty wet on the inside. So I think once you split that stuff, I think it's got to get stacked right away. I don't think that wood is very good for going into a loose pile. I know stuff like ash. Actually, the other day, Skidder Kev put out a video about his big cones that they make off their processor, of just running ash through the processor up a conveyor and making it into a big cone, and how he's never really had too big of an issue with mold on the inside of those big piles. But I think the reason is the type of wood. I think ash is pretty low, pretty dry to begin with. It doesn't have that wet touch to it when you split it open. And with this wood, like that basswood, like I said, I could like run my finger on the wedge and it was wet. And those rounds had been sitting for since last fall, cut and bucked. So they didn't dry out very much from just sitting there in rounds, which I guess leads to another debate, whether or not you should split your wood or not, because leaving it in a round, it will still be damp on the inside. So yeah, I think that was the reason. That type of wood, that poplar, that cottonwood, and that basswood was just wet to begin with. And once it was tossed into that pile, the mold probably was starting to form within a few days. You know, it probably didn't take too long. So that's it. Maybe we'll try another pile in the future of a different type of wood, and just, you know, maybe I'll do something. Well, I don't have enough space, but maybe I'll clear out some space once I get things organized, and I'll be able to make another pile, a loose pile with a different type of wood, and see how that does seasoning. So for now, that's it. Hope you guys enjoy. We'll see you next time. Stay safe, have fun, and be cool.